Welcome back. So the United States presidential candidates, Democrat Kamala Harris and Republican Donald Trump, will of course need to get at least 270 Electoral College votes to win the race for the White House. And the next president will also have to deal with both domestic and foreign affairs that continue to divide the country. And that of course includes its role in Israel and Gaza, that war, as well as the one between Russia and Ukraine, among others. And you have domestic issues such as racial and immigration tensions that many voters were also very, very keen on seeing what the candidates had to offer. But let me just introduce our panel to you very briefly. We have Ambassador Ebrahim Rasool. He's joining us virtually in studio with me. We have Dr. Sithembile Mbete, Senior Lecturer at the Department of Political Science at University of Pretoria, and our very own Sophie Mokoena, SABC News International Editor. Sophie, let me start with you since you're new to the panel. So just a quick update, that race for the Electoral College votes, 270 is the magic number. Donald Trump at the moment sitting on 230. Kamala Harris has made some ground now, 192. So it is closing, starting to look more like the close race that has been called. But of course, it all comes down to these battleground states now. And given that Donald Trump, they've just called North Carolina, makes it all the more important, these battleground states for Kamala Harris. Sophie?
Let's look at Pennsylvania, and it looks like it's very heated there. And when people predicted earlier on, the prediction was that it will be a walkover for Kamala Harris when you look at the history of Pennsylvania. But when you look at the demographics in that swing state, you find that you have Latino. And therefore, you know that we knew that they were likely going to vote for Donald Trump, much as many people said in the past days towards the end of the campaigns, they made mistakes with those words, your garbage and all of that. But clearly, they were always going to rally behind Donald Trump. And what are the reasons? It's because the communities were badly hit by inflation. But secondly, men are attracted to Trump. We know that's being said many times. The issue of immigrants, much as they have links with immigrants, they want to close doors for others who want to come in. And therefore, that's the problem when you look at that group within Pennsylvania. And therefore, you find states such as Arizona and Nevada having to go perhaps in favor of Trump. He will definitely get votes there. Now, if he does pull Pennsylvania, it is going to be a mountain for Hillary. Not Hillary, Kamala. I'm thinking 2016 because I mean I can see Donald Trump is able to beat women only.
And it's going to be a very interesting one because just going back to these Rust Belt states, Ambassador Rasool, you know, and the issues that Sophie mentions, you spoke about Michigan earlier on, especially with the demographics there and what had happened in an earlier by-election. So this race is getting very narrow for Kamala Harris and her prospects for victory. So she's going to have to pull one out of the hat here because Pennsylvania and all the other swing states have just taken on massive importance given how well Donald Trump is going so far. So let's talk to that in terms of what Sophie mentions. What are the issues that are pivotal for these mostly working class communities where issues such as healthcare, issues such as the economy, all of those are pivotal for these people, as well as you mentioned earlier, issues like the war in Gaza and how people are responding to all of that. Do you think she could still take Pennsylvania?
I'm not too sure. At this stage, with about 80% of the votes counted, in some cases up to 90%, one would have expected a far closer race, as is traditional, at about 220 votes each. I think at this stage she is under the 200 marks. She's over the 220 Electoral College marks. And so it's going to be very tough for Kamala to, in a sense, come back from this and to be able to take it. And I think that in addition to what Sophie said, you also have a geopolitical factor for the Rust Belt. Who can be tougher on China and exports from China and so forth? Because there is where protectionism is going to feel the most. Protectionism of the US market globally, protectionism of US goods, the import of Chinese goods. I think those become absolutely critical, as well as issues of immigration become a lot more clear. So there's a very connoisseur vote around Palestine and Gaza. I don't think that Ukraine-Russia features as strongly, because there's not a demographic that is tailor-made for Ukraine-Russia, but there is certainly one for how the US will deal with the threat of China, and the trade war is going to be absolutely crucial. And on that one, Trump in the Rust Belt could have the edge, because the Biden policies have not been seen to be absolutely effective in countering China. In fact, and this is what brings South Africa into the eye of the storm, South Africa convened the last BRICS meeting, expanded BRICS, has made BRICS a formidable economic force, but it will be confused with whether South Africa also ideologically has common ground with a country, with countries of BRICS, but there's too much political and ideological divergences, so he's simply dealing with a market nature of BRICS. And I think that we're going to have to navigate those kind of grounds very carefully in the United States.
Indeed, and just looking at what's happening across the country there, and a quick update, as we say, the race to 270, and Donald Trump 230 at the moment, Kamala Harris 205.